Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we move towards the end. I said this morning that we learn from challenging each other. We are, of course, challenged by events, and sometimes we need to be challenged by great thinkers. Angell is such a thinker. Ian began as a mathematician. Through mathematics, he became interested in computer graphics. Just to be clear, we are talking about the 1970s. He moved to the London School of Economics, where he helped to establish the Department of Information Systems, and where, as I said earlier today, he became the first person in the UK, non-IBM, to be given access to the IBM personal computer. Ian is a futurist. In 2000, he wrote the bestseller, The New Barbarian Manifesto, in which, among other things, he suggested we were entering a new age of rage. How right he was. He also spoke in that book about hotspots and hinterlands, a concept which I believe has been invaluable to us in Kraków to build our industry as a hotspot. What is a futurist? Well, I have this from Ian. Essentially someone who reveals hidden patterns in the present. That's been our collective task today, I would say. But it never hurts to be challenged and to keep being challenged. That said, I confess Ian is not always easy to understand, which is why I am very pleased that this session is facilitated by our own Sylwek Wiśniewski, who will, after Ian's keynote, interview him on our behalf. So, I don't know, Sylwek, do I hand to you? Do I hand to Ian? How would you like to do it?
We'll
See you, Ian. Okay.
You better take that away.
I will.
Good. Well, I don't predict the future, I predict the present. And that's my basis of futurology. I'm putting my futurology hat on because Andrew asked me to, and to look at, in particular, artificial intelligence. No doubt some of you here have the misapprehension that AI is a pixie dust, that you sprinkle on your business and something wonderful will happen. Well, could I have the slides up? Could I have where is it? Oh. Which is, let's move forward, okay? Whoops. I say, listen to Picasso. Picasso said, computers are useless. They only give you answers. And often those answers are irrelevant, they're just plain wrong, or they solve the wrong problem. Now, when answers are implemented as apparent solutions, they create unintended consequences and complexity. Whatever the technology, doesn't matter what it is, but in particular AI, we must assess the relevance and the effectiveness of its implementation and adapt accordingly. If you don't adapt, you've got problems. And so there are people, I heard the word today so many times, solution. There are no such things as solutions, only contingencies. Things work until they no longer work. The only thing systems have in common is they all fail. So this sort of strategic understanding on how technological and human activity systems interact, because what we're talking about are two different systems. A human activity system, namely the way we are, interacting with a system of technology. And this must pervade every aspect of management, because once you get to grips with this, it brings up the confidence, like everything else in life, and everything does not come on the cheap. So when you're looking at AI, using it effectively, it will not come on the cheap. Just like NASA astronaut Mike Collins was asked what went through his mind at blastoff, and he said, "I'm sitting on top of 6 million parts, all made by the lowest bidder." The Challenger disaster was a consequence of that. So the thing is, we may know the price of technology, but the cost accrues from here to eternity. And we have no way of calculating the total costs, only the price. And because we do not understand the systemic nature of technology, we've got a problem. Systems always go far beyond their initial installation. A system is the totality of what that installation becomes. What it will become, it's not what it was intended to be. Because of systemic misbehavior, even seemingly benign technologies can bite. And when two different systems clash, all bets are off. Now, Professor Glass of the University of Oklahoma gave dire warnings about toothbrushes. He says instead of helping oral hygiene, they actually spread disease. Our mouths are full of bacteria. As we brush, the bacteria are transferred onto the bristles. Then we enter the bathroom system, steamy, custom-made for bacteria to breed among the bristles. Vigorous brushing often scratches the gums, injecting an exploding bacteria population directly into the bloodstream, bypassing the natural mucus defense system that we've happily brushed aside. Professor Glass says in the US, 7 people die of pneumonia every year because they brush their teeth. Now, that is an example of systems colliding and unintended consequences. Systemic consequences do not stay within the boundaries of the original installation. They ripple out in all directions. Ripples may be inconsequential, or they can turn into a tsunami, as is happening with AI in today's business. AI is a technology that is going to change totally our reality. Consider the example of autonomous vehicles. Now, I'm not talking about the future. They're already here. Las Vegas has already got autonomous taxis. Now, when you think about it, on average, each car is parked for over 22 hours per day. What an appalling waste of resources. Now, when an autonomous vehicle can arrive within minutes of a call, why bother to own a car? In 10 years, we won't be owning cars. We simply phone them up. It's Uber on steroids, only Uber won't be using human drivers. They'll all be computers, all AI. There'll be no parking in towns, just drop-off points. Efficient use of resources means fewer cars on the road. Far less pollution. It will affect public buses and trains, and they won't be using drivers either. Imagine no servicing, no MOTs, I don't know what you have the equivalent in Poland, no car insurance, no congestion charges, no road taxes, no license fees, no speeding fines, no depreciation. Why own a car when you have all these advantages? No more car showrooms, no more salesmen, no more refueling stations, ripples everywhere. How are government going to replace the lost revenue that comes with the loss of all these facilities? And I was asked to make some predictions on what you should do with investments. And I'll say alcohol consumption will go through the roof. because everybody, when they go out, they will always go on automated cars and come back with automated cars. So I say to you now is buy shares in breweries, because that's going to really come out as a real advantage. And now I'm speaking as a teetotaler. I don't drink alcohol. I've never drank an alcohol in my life. As my wife said, I'm bad enough now. Think what it would be like if I actually drank alcohol. There will be no more charging anxiety with electric cars, because pre-arranged relay teams of autonomous electric cars will cover long journeys. You know, because anybody who's got an electric car now are all neurotic, wondering about when they can find the next charging point. It means the release of large areas of real estate, because there'll be no more multi-story car parks. Your home garage will become either another bedroom or a man cave. No on-street congestion. Spare capacity means cars will be used for deliveries, drones on wheels, or maybe cars with delivery aerial drones included. And delivery won't be to a fixed address, but to the current location of a mobile phone. And that changes the nature of everything. So you don't need an address, you just need a mobile phone. The AI ripples on and on. Social reality will change. Now, in the 19th century, the roads need to be cleared of horse droppings, and the employment of the people who dug up the horse shit, gone. Commonplace 20th century jobs will disappear as well because of the emerging system of autonomous cars. And I'm talking about car salesmen. They're going to have a tough time. The number of cars being produced will go down, and only a few number of companies will buy cars, and therefore the car manufacturers themselves will have an issue. And think, no more taxi drivers, which means you won't need to tip them anymore. So there's another benefit. Ripples are coming in the way of every business. It's not only general changes in social reality, but also the way in which your company plans to use AI. And more importantly, it's all very well you thinking about how we're going to use it, but your competitors are going to be using it as well. And that's got to be taken into account. Now, we'll consider further scenarios in the Q&A later. But whether you like it or not, your company will have to get up to speed on AI. And that means educating everyone in the company, those who are still employed, on the pros and cons of AI. So they recognized its implications to business and to society. You will use AI to maintain trust in your company and its reputation. You will use AI to stay updated on the changing regulations to avoid future legal problems. However, AI too is in constant flux, and so you must encourage continuous learning about new AI developments and best practices. Therefore, it's essential that you partner with an AI expert set to learn about the latest AI resources not available in-house. Or you could be that AI company yourself. However, I must warn you, don't put too much reliance on experts. Think about it. Noah was an amateur when he built the ark, but the Titanic was built by professionals. Your focus must be on business value, not on pixie dust. You must consider how AI can impact your bottom line and return on investment by improving operations, customer service, and decision-making. Integrating AI into your company requires careful planning to enable a smooth implementation that minimizes disruption and maximizes the gains. Now, a common starting point of AI as a tool is to enhance the customer experience through targeted, personalized recommendations or chatbots, but these have been a disaster up till now. But I think ChatGPT will change all that, and improvements in services. And then you can move on. Now, a commonly outsourced AI task is recruitment, where the claims made in an applicant's resume can all be checked because it has the dimension to go out and look for every resource and to find out, to check the social media. And then you can check on the personality types of the applicants, their honesty, and whether they fit with your company culture, as well as the statistical likelihood of them moving quickly on. After all the cost of hiring them, you don't want to have a churn to move them on quickly. However, AI can only be effective if it has been trained on a comprehensive set of high-quality and relevant data, not only on your company records, your structure, your employees, your customers, and your products and services, but also on your competition and on the various prevalent trends in your business sector. Bringing together such highly sensitive and valuable data makes it vulnerable to attack, and so security must be a prime concern. I saw a 30% interest in security. Nonsense. It's got to be 100%. When you have AI, all of your crown jewels are going to be in one spot, used to train your AI, and therefore it is really dangerous. And this afternoon we heard about how HR is spending all their time dealing with snowflakes. Now, you can see why shareholders are saying, bring on the AI. How do you train AI? Well, you start by clearly stating the tasks the AI will be performing. And then, from the various forms of AI available, you choose the ones that are most relevant to you. Then collect comprehensive and sufficient data for training. The AI's performance will depend on the quality and the quantity of the data. So you must pre-process the data into a suitable format by removing outliers, handling missing values, standardizing data, and extracting the relevant features. Then train the AI on that data, adjusting the parameters to minimize the difference between a predicted and an actual outcome. These may include so-called hyperparameters, which are there set prior to training. Then comes validation and testing, with the AI model tested on previously unseen and unrelated set of data to see how it works in practice. This is followed by further adjustment onto the model until eventually its performance is deemed satisfactory. Only then can it be deployed in a real-world environment where its activities must still be continuously monitored, not only by the AI itself, but also by human thinking managers acting with discretion. AI will only work if there are human beings with discretion acting and checking on the output. And this could lead on to further training and updating of the model. But before I go on, I want to introduce you to the notion of an order of observation. Now, a second order observation involves an observer perceiving the behavior of something, rather than that first order behavior in and of itself. So, for example, pet owners are well aware of this difference, as we all anthropomorphize our pets' behavior. Anthropomorphism is the attribution human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities, like cats. I think I know what the cat is thinking, but I don't. But I will still put my thinking onto it. That's second order. But also, we put it onto machines. We always interpret what is an alien, non-human form of thinking, the first order, with humanizing it, second order. With artificial intelligence, first order intelligence would be the machine's output being intelligent in its own terms. Whereas second order intelligence is the human observer interpreting the output as intelligent as compared to human intelligence. Never forget that most AI references to intelligence are all second order. They are not the machine in itself. We have no idea what the computer is actually thinking, if what it does can be called thinking. And me commenting on an observer looking at AI is third order observation. So that's the way of the world. And so if you think the machine is thinking, then you're wrong. As a starting point for learning about AI, I recommend trying ChatGPT. Now, 3.3.5 is free. Amazing. But you'll be unaware that it's using billions of parameters. Trillions of parameters in terms of ChatGPT, which, of course, you have to pay a fee. But you have to pay a fee if they let you off the waiting list. I have been on the waiting list for 2 months, and I still haven't got on. So because I had various things happening in my family, and so I didn't do it. My co-author on my next book, which is called the Technological Construction of Reality, he got on it straight away. And so some of the examples I'm going to show you are what he produced. But if anyone is interested in the in-depth workings of the system, then I can highly recommend you read Stephen Wolfram. He's done, it's a little technical, but not too technical. And it does give you an amazing insight into the way ChatGPT works. Because ChatGPT uses neural networks with various probabilities, but all it does is predict one word at a time. Predicts the next word. That's all it does. But it produces perfect English sentences that make sense. You don't need to know how it works in order to use it. Now, let me tell you about my first experience of ChatGPT. For a laugh, I asked it, tell me about Professor Ian Angell of the LSE. Some of his reply was correct, but mostly it was wrong. In particular, in perfect English, it told me I passed away in 2018. Then I got serious and I said, write a 1,000-word essay giving the arguments against method, using the ideas and quotations from both Paul Feyerabend and Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, you'd think that would be a much, much more difficult question to answer. What came back was a concise summary of my own thinking, but in a way far better and more articulate than I could have ever produced. So I was amazed. It was a fabulous essay. So how can professors know if coursework handed in has been produced by the students or by ChatGPT? They don't. And more so, why employ university professors when you've got ChatGPT giving the lectures in a much better way? So you can do away with professors that are a waste of space. Use ChatGPT instead. But only on sophisticated questions with a large database of data that actually trains the actual system. Now, the two questions I asked show the importance of framing the question, and also the completeness of the data used in training and in formulating the questions. ChatGPT has a huge library of philosophical texts to rely on, which is why it gave me such a fantastic answer to the second question. But it had a sparsity of data held on the few Ian Angells living in the UK, and that led to the mix-up and the confusion and the fact that I died 4 years ago. Now, the next slide shows how an inadequate question can lead to nonsensical output. My friend, co-author Dionysius Demetis, inputted a faded photograph. Oops, there should have been 3. Never mind. The faded photograph of the house his grandfather built in Athens after World War II. He asked ChatGPT to tidy up the photograph. This is what came out, a Disney World view of that house. He wanted a tidied up black and white photograph in detail, getting rid of the cracks and everything, and this is what he got. However, another friend of mine decided to remodel his Aston Martin by inputting substantial specifications. And this is one of the many outputs that came out. And it was fabulous. Now, that's unquestionably a Aston Martin. But it's slightly different from the present Aston Martins. And also, the internal specs which came with it are also quite sufficiently different. And that's all produced by AI asking one question, but having been trained in that question. Now, a more interesting development is that ChatGPTs enable you to develop further GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers. You can create your own personal assistant. Now, this one was trained and told to be flirtatious in the answers. And so if you look at these answers, you can see that ChatGPT on its own invented double entendre. These are quite naughty, these statements. Here we are, look. If you're a malware, I'm not looking for an antivirus. Now that's quite interesting that the machine could actually come up with that. Only being told, be flirtatious. So, here is a tech support advisor GPT, which I use with my MacBook Pro and my phone, and Dionysius does. And you basically ask it questions about the technology, and it will tell you. So why have tech support when you've got your own personalized tech support GPT? But it does give you some very sensible advice. If you look at the very bottom, you can't see it there, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Consider checking important information. That's at the bottom. It's actually saying to you, if you use this stuff and you don't check it, then you're only yourself to blame. So, however, how long will it be before this warning is ignored? And companies are populated by Silicon employees. And as far as the shareholders are concerned, they'll say not soon enough. Because no snowflakes. If ChatGPT, as long as you train it properly not to be a snowflake, then it will just behave sensibly and will think about the bottom line, namely how to make a profit. You don't think, oh, I must think about the sensitivity of my employees. Fire those. You get the people who are there to make you a profit. And so the technology it's a matter of time before companies. But there is a problem. This utility can soon turn into reliance. Reliance turns into dependence. And when the technology is given total authority, it has no responsibility. Because how can a computer be responsible? AI decision-making can soon mutate into a rigid bureaucracy, beyond questioning. Now, quite reasonably, firms aspire to bureaucracy because it's the most efficient way and effective way of controlling normal, problematic situations, thereby mitigating risk. But this is like driving a car by looking in the rearview mirror. It's fine as long as there isn't a bend in the road ahead. There's always a bend in the road ahead. There's always a singularity out there. And in such singularities, the unilateral imposition of the rules of an AI bureaucracy will lead to chaos. Now, this is true of all bureaucratic decision-making. And let me give you an example of what happens when you blindly obey a bureaucracy. Now, this isn't to do with AI. This is something that actually happened. Now, Wookey Hole is a tourist center in England, chose to launch a new attraction, a grand teddy bear exhibition. The bureaucrats in their insurance company insisted that the premises be patrolled at night by a guard dog. A risk-based analysis told them that a lone night watchman would not be sufficient to protect such a valuable collection of teddy bears. Left with no choice, the Wookey Hole management hired Barney, the Doberman. So far, so good, except for one oversight, one singularity. Soft toys are used in the attack training of Dobermans. Mabel, the star's exhibit, a stiff bear, once owned by Elvis Presley, didn't stand a chance. Barney tore her to shreds, along with all the other bears. You can see, here's Mabel on the bottom right there. That's how she ended up. A 40,000-pound teddy bear. The insurance company had to fork out $40,000 for Mabel, as well as all the others, simply because the risk assessors, in their bureaucratic certainty, demanded a guard dog. It is normal for guard dogs to patrol premises at night, as long as they're guarding money or works of art, but not guarding the singularity of teddy bears. So, a normal situation was turned into a singularity because of what was being guarded. Now, similarly, AI bureaucracy can degenerate into systemic risk and chaos when the neural network description of the world is incapable of dealing with singular events. Now, the American Psychological Association says that the omnipresent computer output distracts, causing confusion and errors of judgment. They call it the glass cockpit syndrome. This syndrome has two effects. End users rely entirely on the system without exercising judgment. The ensuing information overload results in users ignoring many of the pieces of sometimes very important information. And that's why you need a thinking manager with discretion to make sure that using the output from AI doesn't form a glass cockpit syndrome. Now, AI bureaucracy may well be highly sufficient and effective in normal situations, but we cannot know if a situation is normal or whether it's singular until all of the consequences have played out. Now, the inappropriate use of AI can be mitigated, but only by employees using their discretion. Unfortunately, AI bureaucracy can signal the end of discretion. Indeed, discretion is frowned on, since in its self-referential certainty, the AI will claim that its descriptions are normal and thus everything is under control. However, in inevitable abnormal singular situations, a lack of discretion will lead to a vicious feedback loop of systemic hazard. Now, we intend to accept that what we were told by computer screens without question, rather than admit to the contradictory evidence of our own eyes. There was an example of an air crash in Manchester where the aeroplane system told him that the left-hand engine was on fire, so he knocked it off. But it had been wired up incorrectly, and it was the right-hand engine that was on fire, so he ended up with no engines, and the plane crashed and killed everybody on board. So, don't believe what the computer system tells you, because it may be wired up wrong, or it may be given the inaccurate or irrelevant information. So you can't admit to the contradictory evidence of your own eyes. Look out the window and you can see which engine was on fire, but they didn't look out the window. So with discretion, staff could evaluate information in order to reach more appropriate decisions for each potentially singular occasion. This implies carefully using discretion, but within the general premises of AI bureaucracy. AI bureaucracy will be useful for most of the time. It's actually sensible to use it most of the time. AI will be invaluable, an invaluable organizational asset, but if and only if it is overseen by talented and skilled personnel. In an AI bureaucracy, all decisions and choices are machine-made, with each situation seen as normal, along with a self-referential insistence that there are no abnormal situations. But there are always singular situations that don't fit these decisions. Hence the need for discretion. A human individual given the right to choose between the various courses of action. Only as tools that support the thinking manager rather than replacing him will AI be of any value. What a company doesn't need is a horde of machine minders. Now, one of the areas that terrifies me is what happens when an AI system and a financial system are joined. Now, if that AI system is in medicine, it may put the cost of operations above anything else. And so the AI system will actually be a death sentence to some people unless you've got a human manager with some discretion. So that's something to be very wary of. So while you must be aware and intercept any of the systemic risks of systems coming together, the unforeseen consequences, but the unforeseen consequences can be hazards and opportunities. It's not all bad. Some of the consequences are beneficial. You don't realize, which are the result of feedback in the complexity implicit in all large systems. So we are left with purposefully directing, didn't mean to say that, yeah. So purposely directing the system's procedures as they exist in their present state. Identifying that state is by no means an easy matter. Unprepared managers who are not able to prioritize among the blizzard of messages emanating from their machines will find the sheer scale and the complexity of the data flow turn what they thought of was information into noise. Managing both the functionality of the technology and the phenomenon of complex systems that spontaneously emerge around IT operating within human activity systems requires the thinking manager to prioritize among the flow of data, and what that task needs is symbiosis, not machine minders. AI is becoming a bureaucracy, insinuated into and inseparable from the very essence of business. The only questions professionals must ask is how do we learn to live with this uncertainty and love it? To enjoy the sheer wonder of AI, because AI is wonderful, as I found when I saw my answer to the Nietzsche question, and thereby position our companies to deliver fantastic benefits. But it's not going to be easy. And I will leave you with one small piece of advice, and that is, start the day with a smile and get it over with. Because managing the consequences of AI is no smiling matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So now we'll go through a couple of questions, and we made sure that we also open the floor for a Q&A. So I think there's a couple of people that wants to ask a question to Ian. So please join me. And we'll start with a twofold question. And a small disclaimer, we had a possibility to talk in the morning, and it took a while for us, actually. We spent like 45 minutes already talking. So with Ian, it's really a pleasure to have a discussion.
I have verbal diarrhea, so.
So we'll start with something opening. There is a lot of enthusiasm and fear with AI. There is a lot of enthusiasm. You can hear today that we want AI, but at the same time, we don't know what is coming. If you could give your view on the optimistic situation with AI and your prediction, but at the same time, what's the one that is pessimistic that you still think it's going to happen if we won't do something?
Right, well, the answer to all these questions is it depends. It depends on the observer. Now, if the observer is a shareholder, then getting rid of irrelevant staff and replacing them with machines that operate 24 hours a day, there'll be no backlogs because you just bring a new AI on board to deal with whatever question comes along. So you'll have instantaneous responses. There'll be no backlogs. Legal, I think, for example, in the law, the vast majority of paralegals will be redundant because it'll have all of the law books already loaded in. And so all the sort of low-hanging fruit in the legal system will be taken away by AI. But it will also move up. And I foresee a situation where in a court case, you will have the defense is a computer, the prosecution is a computer, and the judge is a computer. The only human in the place is the guy on charge. But that means that you can have multiple court cases going on at the same time. You know, we've got huge backlogs of court cases in the UK. That'll all go. So you can see, and say with shareholders, you know, the profitability, you know, I haven't heard the word bottom line mentioned any time today. Now, I'm a filthy capitalist, you know. I was the only conservative capitalist at the London School of Economics, which is normally a very left-wing organization. I was the only capitalist there. And it always baffles me that human sensitivity is valued so much. You know? Bottom line is everything in my book. As a shareholder, I'm only interested in the bottom line. Whether I'm damaging the sensitivity of some snowflake doesn't even come into the equation. And if they are interfering with the bottom line, then AI will get rid of them. And in fact, in the use of AI to actually recruit people, you go through all their social media, and if they give any impact of being sort of wishy-washy, then you don't even employ them to start with. So you only hire hard-nosed capitalists. So if your children are now on social media, tell them not to put anything on there that makes them look like a snowflake. Say, I am a filthy capitalist. And then their chance of being employed will be much greater because the AI will go through the whole list and check them out. Now, you can't, look, already companies check social media, but not to the depth that an AI can do it. So that's the positive side, you know? The negative side is you're unemployed, sorry. Because it is going, no, the idea that there's going to be 5% unemployment through AI, I think, no, it's going to be 50%. Now, hopefully, the technology will create new jobs to fill the gap. But Steve McQueen in The Magnificent Seven said he was sitting on the floor, and this guy jumped out of the 7th floor. And at every point, he heard them saying, "So far, so good." The trouble with AI is, you see, every new technology, when it went from agriculture to industrialization, all you did was change one form of labor to another. The intellectual labor was untouched. Now, with AI, the intellectual labor is being untouched. General practitioners, who needs them? That can all be replaced by AI.
So Ian, I will stop you here,
Yeah.
because actually you're getting into the area where my second question
Righto.
goes. So we represent shared services, GBS. We represent services environment. And you're going into the area of actually where we are operating. How do you foresee the landscape's going to change for us and for our businesses and the businesses of the shared services?
You must deliver the thinking manager. The people you employ must have the intellect to actually question the output from the AI. And if you are known to have a large number of thinking managers on your books, you will do very well. Because it won't be long before people realize the limitations of AI. The benefits in normal situations, but the problems in singular situations. And until things happen, you cannot know whether it's normal or singular. And therefore, if you can deliver people who will help companies through the misuse of AI, then that is going to be a huge opportunity for your business. But if all you're doing is delivering machine minders, then I'm sorry, those jobs are gone. You know, the old joke in England is a factory has 2 employees, 1 man and a dog. The man is there to feed the dog, and the dog is there to make sure the man doesn't touch anything. You know, that's the way it's going. And so what I'm seeing in terms of what the companies look like when AI revolution is really taken over is the people at the top will be all right. And surprisingly, the people at the very bottom will be all right. It's the ones in the middle that have got the problem. The lady that washes the floor, she's got a job for life. The one who hands out the coffee, job for life. But if you're a middle manager who's been to a business school, where all you do is learn about how to obey recipes, because that's all business schools do. The only benefit of a business school is the networking you find there. The actual content of the courses are garbage. They are basically cookery book techniques that you can automate in a computer. So why have a human being doing cookery books when you've got a machine doing it much cheaper? So what you get from a business school is the link. And universities, well, they cease to be. I see no future in universities at all. So if any of you got children who want to be academics, my answer to you is don't. I always say that when I get asked for advice, what do I do with my children? I say, you either be an IT specialist, a plumber, because AI isn't going to deal with plumbing. Because the problems in plumbing, the cost of a robot to do it is far more than the person you employ to do it. Or be a policeman. So I advise, if your children want to join the police, that's a great career. Because we are about to enter an age of rage. I predicted this in 2000, and we've seen 20 years of rage. It's going to get worse. So be a policeman.
Ian, so next one. And actually, you floated nicely into the people, the biggest value that we have, especially in Kraków, is the talent, right? It's the workforce. I mean, entire day we talked about talent from different angles. What we should do as a leaders, and we have only leaders here in this forum. What leaders should do, focusing on talent, if AI, it's not behind the door, it's actually already in-house. What should we do?
When I was the head of a department at the LSE, my rule was hire people that are cleverer than me. And that was the rule I always used, because they may be cleverer than me, but they weren't as streetwise. So I could always manipulate them because I was streetwise and they weren't. And that's the trouble with clever people. Often they aren't streetwise. And so you, as managers, as senior people in organizations, is to be streetwise. In other words, forget about all this rationality about AI creating the ultimate perfection of human thought. That's absolute nonsense. There is no perfection of human thought. The AIs will just produce a different form of thinking. But that will not tell you about reality, because there is no such thing as a fixed reality. It's all malleable. And as a streetwise manager, you can sense and move with the changing realities around you. But always recognize that you have to put your mind into the reality of your customers. Because that was interesting today when we heard from Knight Frank, where they were talking about their perspective of real estate. They weren't thinking of what do these customers think. And I remember the first time I realized this, it hit me, with a paper that was written by Blake Ives, before 2000. And he said, let's look at selling cars. He says, car companies sell cars. Customers buy new cars. Totally different. And it's that sort of awareness, streetwise, being able to put yourself into the minds of your customers so that you are aware of how they see the situation, not the way your company sees the situation. They're not the same thing. And that requires talent, real talent. Now, this is not somebody who's done well in their examinations in a business school or a university. One of the things I learned, I spent 40 years teaching in university, and all I realized straight away is that students with first-class degrees know how to pass exams, and that's all they know. They have no common sense at all. I ended up with a first-class degree in mathematics. I ended up starting to do a PhD in algebraic number theory. And then I realized there were only 5 people in the world interested in what I was doing, and one of them was my mother. So, and also I looked around and I saw these mathematicians, and they were all weird. So I thought, do I want to be a weirdo like that, or do I want to be a human being? And so I gave up mathematics. I ended up with computing, and then I soon realized that computing itself was full of weirdos, and decided that I would look at social consequences. And that's where I really took off. And to do that, you have to have a philosophical basis. So your thinking managers have got must have a philosophical base so that they can look at what's going on and analyze it in some way. Now, my philosophical guru is Friedrich Nietzsche, you know? Everything I do and think stems from that one position. And so the last book I wrote was called God's First Mistake. Sorry, Science's First Mistake was the name of the book. And I took that from a Nietzsche quotation which said, woman is God's second mistake. Now, you think, Nietzsche was a chauvinist. No. He was clever. He wasn't talking about the second mistake. He was talking about Genesis in the Bible and Eve being a problem But what was the question was, what was the first mistake? And the first mistake was the idea that humanity was in charge of the planet. And so science's first mistake is the same idea. Science is not in charge of the planet. If you think that scientific approach is going to solve problems for you, you are wrong. Because there are no solutions. There are only contingencies. Things that last until they no longer work. And then you have to move on to something else. And the idea that science is basically objective.
Yeah.
Science is objective and the world is subjective. So science is wrong. Right? Just get used to that.
Ian, final one. You've mentioned already social consequences. What are the social and with that consequences to all of us? And ethical ones.
Well, I've got no idea. Absolutely no idea. All I know is that it's going to be different to now. I'm particularly interested in money and the nature of money. And one of the aspects I keep asking myself is, what happens if AI is added to cryptocurrency? So that your Bitcoin can actually talk to other Bitcoins. And if they're told that your job is to maximize your value, then one of the first things the AI will do will get together a whole range of Bitcoins. They will invest in some product, pump it up, and then they'll dump it. Then, of course, you've got pump and dump, which is illegal in the present situation. But how do you blame an AI? Who do you take to court? You know, because AI has got authority, but it has no responsibility. And then, of course, you've got idiot politicians, you know, who think they can interfere. He's trying to stop me now because I use idiot politicians. All politicians are idiots.
So I'm done with the questions, at least for now. And I want to ask the audience if there's any question. Please raise your hand.
I'm going to be around this evening, so anybody can buttonhole me.
Maybe one question. Please raise your hand. Graham has a microphone as well, and he promised that he will deliver it. Anyone that would be interested to ask a question? I see a hand. Philippe?
Yeah.
Maybe a very quick one. All those predictions that you have shown, it appears to me like that is rather short term. I mean, AI indeed is now not even close to having a common sense that we have.
Short term,
but imagine 5,000 years down the road, then you will have the intelligence of every human that ever has lived, with every interaction that person has had by then. You should come up with something that is better than what we are. AI evolves on a certain speed that our brain can't match. It didn't really change too much the last few thousand years. And so I think my question is, what is the long-term perspective? Where are we really going?
Well, let me quote Maynard Keynes. He said, in the long term, we're all dead. So,
Yes.
Basically, it is contingency. It's from one short term to the next short term to the next short term. And you have no idea what it's going to be. Because, when they invented the internet, and nobody thought there'd be pornography, child abuse, online trading. All of these things are emergent properties. And so the future is all about emergent properties. And the trouble with emergent properties is that they're non-Darwinian. You got no idea which are the ones that are going to survive and prosper. You have no idea. You can't predict these things. So Darwinism, you can actually predict the consequences. Well, not really, but to a certain extent. But with systemic emergence, you have no idea. So life is an emergent consequence of chemistry. But looking at the chemistry, you have no idea that life will appear. And so it's exactly the same with the consequences of any technology, any new idea that it enters the society. And you have different societies around the world, all starting with different perspectives. Now, when I heard all this going on about looking after the cares of the workforce, I kept thinking, the West is dead. We won't be able to cope with China and India.
Yeah. Great. I think, is there a... Oh, I see. There are more hands. Let's go. And bear in mind that we'll have time also...
Okay, one
after
short
the
question.
session.
Because, there is a Chinese science fiction book, the Three-Bodied Problem, that is actually talking about the humanity facing the ultimate challenge. And Chinese, actually, they foresee that with the development of technology, we will become less resilient because actually we'll be dependent, as Professor said during your speech. And they foresee that to cope with this ultimate challenge, we need to separate a human being, the physical side from what is the kind of a life. And they associated that with brain. Do you see this hope, actually, that the humanity will face this ultimate challenge and we can still win?
You can buy my next book, which is called the Technological Construction of Reality. And there's a whole section in there about AI, but there's also issues to do with biological reality and how the new techniques of manipulating DNA can actually generate life forms that have never existed before and could never exist in any sort of natural progression. So I'm particularly, you see, there's no such thing as an absolute reality. Everything is constructed, and is what Nietzsche said, it's what you become. So everything is about becoming. And so all of your life, you are becoming what you are. And you have no idea what the next becoming is going to be, because it depends what comes your way and interferes with the models that you have in your head, and whether those models fit with what you observe or whether they contradict with what you observe, and which you have to change your models in order to deal with it. And so reality is forever changing, it's malleable. And so to answer your question it's malleable, and you've got no idea, because what will happen is will be a multitude of possibilities. They will bounce against one another. Some will succeed and replicate, and others won't. Now, I was told about predicting the future of AI. Now, to me, computers, human beings are the part of the asexual reproduction of computers.
Ian,
we
we'll
needed to make the next computer. But once the AI can do it itself, they'll do away with us.
Przemek, and the rest of the answer for you will be during the coffee. Ian, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to listen to you.